Kia ora, guten Abend, bonjour, konnichiwa, ni hao, and what's the other one? Hola. I think that covers all the languages in the world. Oh yes, and hello, greetings. Steve here from the Cosmic Banter podcast. Welcome to the first episode. This isn't the first episode I recorded. I think it was about the third, but I'm going to release this one first, and I'll tell you why in a moment. It falls under the category of this, I guess, pilot season. So this is season 0, episode 1. Not because of the content of the story or the quality of the recording by any means, but maybe you won't notice, but I noticed that I felt like I interrupted a bit too much. Maybe I shouldn't have even planted that seed, because you'll now be thinking about every time I speak, oh, he's interrupted again. Maybe it's all in my head, I don't know. But anyway, this is an interview with a friend of mine when I was in Melbourne, called Emily. Now, Emily and I kind of randomly co-parented this dog, this beautiful puppy called Lady. And Lady was so near and dear to me, and yeah, it was just an interesting situation. Just ended up babysitting this dog and had a bond with it, and then there was extended periods where it was just me with it. And I mean, it is Emily's dog. It is definitely Emily's dog, but I miss Lady. Lady's in Texas or California or somewhere now, but I'll see her again one day. But anyway, Emily and I, got chatting, and we had a shared interest in the supernatural, and she's gonna share her story. It's a bit of a ghost story, I guess. It would fall under that category, but I won't spoil it. And the reason I've put this and the subsequent episode 2, in the pilot season is because stupid me, she brought her friend along, Claire. Now, Claire is going to be in episode 2, right? And when Emily finished telling her story, Claire jumped in and started telling some crazy stories of her own. But before she did, she just had to pop off to the loo, and I thought that I was hitting pause, but I'd actually hit stop or cancel on the recording device. And so she came back, and none the wiser, we had this amazing 30-40 minute conversation, and none of it was recorded. So anyway, got her back. We didn't cover all the stories, so Claire, if you're listening, would be great to chat about the other stories you had. But you'll hear Claire more in episode 2. And Emily, you did fantastic. I apologise if I interrupted your flow too much, or I want to make it predominantly about the guests. But look, we were all friends and just having good chinwag. So without further ado, this is season 0, episode 1 of the Cosmic Banter podcast, and this is titled Shadowpeople in New Jersey. Enjoy. We're recording. Can you just keep it professional? Welcome, Emily. Welcome, Claire. And actually, welcome back, because I've already recorded a couple of episodes, so it's a welcome back to the Cosmic Banter podcast, episode 3. Well, this is the third recording, but you're like technically the second and third guests. The second episode was just me ranting about something alone one weekend. Had the whole house to myself.
4 a.m.
Yeah. It's like a 4-hour podcast. Yeah. No. So, yeah, I'll just show you as well, just while we're here, right? I've been playing around with the paid premium version of ChatGPT to design my artwork for the podcast. And so it's so...
Oh, amazing.
Like, it's really annoying because I'm asking it, you'll see like how I talk to it. I'm like, again, you have excluded 2 elements that I've specifically requested time and time again. For some reason, you have left out cosmic banter. So it keeps leaving out the text. But anyway, I'll show you some of the ones that I like. I like the idea of an owl. The owls are pretty prominent and like...
What does the owl represent?
Well...
I see it all the time.
Do you?
Well, with these associated things like paranormal or seeing signs or... I can't remember what it was in relationship to, but it was...
Well, that's really interesting you say that, because I was just literally listening to a podcast about that very thing yesterday, and it's come up... I'll show you the 3 later. It's come up a few times, because for some reason, when people have a paranormal, or oftentimes, if it's a UFO encounter, there's always like a presence of an owl. And they're often like unusually large, like, cryptid, not, I don't know. And one theory, right, is that like this phenomena, whatever it is, right, this other world, it's very real, but we can still interpret it through the lens of pop culture and stuff. And so like this guy in this podcast brought up the fact that in Harry Potter, the owl is like the messenger, right?
Then? Yeah.
And...
Well, that's what I like. My memory of the way that I've seen it, even in pop culture, all of this pop culture come from something, is that paranormal, otherworldly, or just like unknown phenomenon has like an owl messenger associated with it in some way. But I don't know the origins of it though.
Yeah, well, that's my idea, is like basically UFO.
That's cool.
The beam coming down. I haven't perfected it, and that's based on Yosemite Valley, right? And then you've got the podcast desk there, and then I wanted a little owl perch there.
That's amazing. I can't believe ChatGPT 4.
I know.
I need to do that for my logo.
Yeah, ChatGPT 4.
I quite like that one.
I like that one better.
Yeah, that's my favourite.
The other one better, I think.
Yeah, it's just annoying, and then it just did this. It was like just replaced me with the owl.
That's very psychedelic. Too psychedelic for my
you reckon?
But
Too cluttered. Anyway, this is audio, so people are getting bored because we can't see.
Probably tell them that there's a
there is
hear breathing.
Yes. If you hear breathing, it's not us. Well, we are breathing. It's a little dog. I was about to say our dog.
Well, it's kind of our dog at this point. We're co-parenting.
Co-parenting this dog, this little beautiful puppy called Lady. And so, Emily, you're off in a couple of days.
48 hours.
48 hours. That is also a couple of days, yes. And Lady's off tomorrow morning. So I'm very sad about that, but it's not about me. But I've bonded with this thing. But I will see you. So where are you off to?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. Well, Lady's only 1, so I've been telling people on our walks when they ask, oh, what breed is she and all this, and I say, it's not my dog. I say that, well, she lives till at least 16. I'm going to be in Dallas a few times in the next 15 years.
Yeah,
at least.
We'll send you some pictures.
Oh, yeah.
You've bonded. Like, it's a little hard to...
You don't want her to think you're just the dad that went to see her and then came back.
Yeah, and you talk to her and all that, and I tell her it's going to be all right, and I tell her what's happening, but, she's ignoring me, she's sniffing around somewhere else, so I don't know. But anyway, so I guess this is the last time I'll see you, Emily, for a wee while.
Well, tomorrow for the...
Oh, okay. Because I'm going to bring around a leash tomorrow. Yeah. It sounds
yes.
way less dramatic now.
Anticlimactic. It's like,
But yes,
This is the last time.
Hangout time.
Yeah, this interview is the last. Oh, yeah, but I'm going to drop something else again. Yeah. So, conscious you guys are time-bound. So, Emily, we spoke a few months back. We sort of shared our interest in the supernatural and stuff. We were talking about UFOs and ghosts, and I was telling you about the Dogman, if you remember that. Look into the Dogman again, okay? It's incredible. And
I'll do my research.
before we start your story, because I know it's a short story, which is absolutely fine. I'm interested in short, long, everything in between. I think it's all fascinating. But Claire, you mentioned like owls coming in to these sorts of stories, right? The appearance of owls. And I think another big element to the paranormal is synchronicities. And so I've never really had anything paranormal. I've never seen a UFO, even though I'm dying to. But I do get crazy synchronicities all the time.
Yeah.
And it won't sound much to, I've already told you, it won't sound much to the listeners, but when a crazy little synchronicity happens to you, it's quite like intense. It's profound.
Yeah.
So like that's been happening over these past few days when I've been texting you. So Emily like texts me asking if she could come round to visit Lady, and I left the text for like a couple of hours, and I was busy doing something. And then the thought came to me, oh shit, I need to respond to Emily. I open my iPhone, open your message, and as soon as I go to type, knock, 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 you're at the door. And then, I haven't told you, but since then, pretty much every time that you've like texted me, there's been like a little thing in my mind where it's like, Emily's coming around, Emily, and then ding. So I don't know if you can read anything into that, but I think it's just an alignment thing.
We're meant to do this podcast.
Yeah. So with that being said, do you want, because Claire, you've got a story as well, but we'll start with Emily.
Yeah.
And you've got a short story.
Actually, I have two.
You have two?
You have two now, I think about it.
You're all confident now. It's like, actually, I want to open up about my whole life.
Actually, this massive dramatic thing happened to me. I've been holding back.
Yeah. So I will say that it runs in our family.
Okay.
My mom has an extraordinary talent around it, so she's had a ton of experiences. And so when my mom was pregnant with me, and I think it was back in the 80s, so I don't know if she didn't know she was pregnant yet or she had just found out or something, but she still smoked cigarettes. And she would get up in the mornings, and all of her ashtrays would be in a closet in her spare room. And she lived alone. She owned her house.
Okay.
And so she would get them out of the closet, and then she'd go put them back out, like one on the back porch or in the living room, and set them back out. And then the next morning they'd be all collected again and they'd be put in the closet. And my mom thinks that was me.
Okay.
And so she shortly found out, I think, was when she like realized that she was pregnant, and that she thinks it was me coming to me like, you need to quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
It is bizarre.
It's pretty scary. Like if I was your mom and like all my city ashtrays were being put in a single room at nighttime,
But
and you were alone, I'd be so scared.
She's not afraid of it. Like my mom has seen ghosts her whole life. It's very second nature to her. She definitely thinks she's had a visit from the devil. She was like very specific. It said her name, like things were moving. And she's a funeral director now too. So she's constantly has ghosts and entities come visit. Some stay, some are just like maybe somebody that just passed. But yeah, so I think that's something she's pretty comfortable with. And she'll tell me, and I've heard her because I've been at the thing like where something got knocked over. And she's like, oh, that's this ghost or whatever. She's like, I told you when we have guests, you're not allowed to act out. And she just goes on with her day. So, yes, I do think it's something that runs in our family. But
what gave her the confidence to think that it was you telling her to try and quit?
That's a good question.
She's had some intuition.
Could have been someone that, like, could have been her mother or someone on the other side that had already passed.
But they were alive. Both her parents were alive.
Grandmother?
Maybe. But, I don't... I'll ask her sometime. But she feels... Her thought process on it is that she feels like it was me. So...
And then she found out she's pregnant.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was... That's how it worked out.
Oh. Well, that's interesting. Either way... The fact that it happened, right?
Yeah, consistently. Like, it wasn't a one-time thing. It had happened multiple times. And so I think one week it was twice. Another week it was once. But she'd happened, like, you know, she said about 4, 5, 6 times where she finally went, why am I meant to, like, something's clearly visiting me. And then she found out shortly she was pregnant. She's like, okay. So somebody was just warning her, whether it was me or another ghost or entity.
Yeah, because I guess like poltergeists, when you think of poltergeists, they're often like tricksters, and they'll, you know, smash, you know, a glass of wine or something will just fly across the room and smash against the wall, and it's kind of scary, but like the scene quite well intentioned.
And we ended up staying in touch with I stayed in touch with the people that bought our house. So we moved out when I was 4, but the house was very close to my grandmother, and this woman was just a saint. No one ever met her, did not love her. So Nanny, she's like the neighborhood grandma, was close to Tony, who was the woman. And so I would go visit Tony whenever. I'd come over and hang out. We'd catch up.
How old were you?
I was throughout my whole life. So Tony passed away, I want to say, in 2015. I think that's about right. Could be a bit sooner, 2013.
And this is taking place in Texas?
No, this is in New Jersey.
Okay, New Jersey.
Yeah, so, but yeah, she lived in the house about 20, 30 years, I don't know. And when I would come visit Tony, she would say sometimes, like, yeah, something just is in the house. She's like, I know where it is. It doesn't harm me. I don't feel scared, but I feel like I get visits sometimes. I was like, so, I don't know. Could have just been the ghost in the house. It could have not been me. Somebody knew that I was coming.
Yeah, crazy. Okay. And then you mentioned there was another one.
When I was older?
Yeah, when you were older. So how old were you?
It's hard to know. I lived in the other house between 4 and 11. So somewhere between there. My guess is around 8. That feels like the right number. That house, as soon as I moved in, multiple like neighbors that were, you know, in their 70s, people down the street, kids my age, everyone was like, you know, your house is haunted, you know, your house is haunted. Like, that was always like the neighborhood known.
Wow.
I didn't have any issues in there growing out. I always felt really safe. The only time something came up was, I was 8 years old. It was very small upstairs. It's a little tiny hallway, and there was 4 rooms. So the bathroom, then a bedroom across from it, and then 2 more bedrooms that were also across from one another in this little hall. And at the end of the hall, they had a closet door. And I couldn't sleep, and I left my door open, and theirs was closed, so I could just see, you know, me. I sleep on my side. When I turn, that's directly what I would was in my eyesight. And I saw this shadow of a figure, and it was very clear that it was a woman. It clear as day. It wasn't blurry in any way.
Really?
Yeah, hair, just like she was a thin woman.
What was she wearing?
I don't know, but she was just like her figure just seemed very petite and feminine. So that's my guess that it was a woman, and it had long hair. And yeah, I saw this figure, and I am somebody who likes action movies. I joke, and so every time I see one, I'm just like, yeah, I want to fight this. You know, go into the bathroom and like, you've got these new ninja moves, and the truth is that when I'm faced with, like, sometime when I feel in danger, I freeze. There's nothing in me that would move. I couldn't move my body.
Were you in, when you say that, I have to ask, have you ever been in sleep paralysis? Was it anything like that?
No, because I was wide awake. But I've
You're
had
wide
a
awake.
situation where it was a little bit life-threatening from another person, and I was silent because they didn't know I was in the house. And I remember the fear that I felt. I was paralyzed to move. Like, there was nothing that I couldn't get out of the bed if I had wanted to. I was so stuck. So I've had that before. So I just know that in like high intensity situations, as much as I like to think like I got this and I want to be the hero and save people, and like, you know, I wouldn't do that. Just sit there and be like, it is what it is, what happens to me.
Because we always say fight or flight, but it's fight, flight, or freeze.
I
right?
freeze. I go hardcore freeze.
Yeah.
So I just was in paralysis in that aspect of just like being able to move. But I was wide awake. I just couldn't sleep that night.
What time was it roughly? Like?
Oh, I mean, it was late. It would have been like early hours of the morning. 2, 3.
And so you were lying on your side and sort of facing down the corridor?
Yeah, I mean, like, everything was small. So it's like, it was just a small room. Here's the open door. You've got in the hallway, you could probably fit lengthwise just really one person. Maybe the person in the house is small.
Yeah.
And then the door. So everything was really close.
Yeah. And was she or it, whatever it was, and you hear that sniffing, the third guest, was she looking at you? Was there recognition? Like, was there an acknowledgement on her face that you were present, or that you were both there?
I couldn't see her face. It really was just a shadow, like a black figure. And it wasn't a 3D. Like, it wouldn't be like a I think of ghosts where it's like this entity that flows through. It was just the shadow, as if a regular person had been standing there. Something was up against their wall. So I couldn't see her face, but it felt like she was staring at me. Like, there was just this curiosity. And then I saw it move where it, and it stayed on the wall the whole time too. So it was on the door, and then it went like from the crevices and then onto the closet door. So like, it got closer, and it kind of just, its head moved. So it was like looking, it felt like it was looking in my direction. It could have been staring at the other wall. I'll never know.
Oh, that's terrifying.
But my 8-year-old self thinks that if you're bending your head in like in a, hey, what's over there? I would assume it would be in the open room where I was.
Yeah.
And it kind of just looked, and it stared, and then it just floated off. And it felt like what it seemed was that there was a body there, but without the body, but like, it's a shadow. That's the best way I can describe it. It was just the shadow that was moving, but it moved in a way that there was a human there.
Do you mean that it was almost like it was the shadow of a human that you couldn't see?
Yes.
Or that the shadow itself was the entity?
I think the shadow itself was the entity, but the way that it presented was, it was a reflection of, had a body been there, and that's how it moved. Like, it didn't come off the wall or anything. It always stayed on the flat surfaces.
2D.
Yeah. Stayed 2D.
What was the feeling? What did it feel like its intentions were? Like, you said curious. So was it more curious than threatening?
Yeah, I didn't feel threatened. It's hard to say because at 8, you can't really identify feelings. Like, you've got like scared, mad, angry, sad, excited. Like, it's just so limited. And so I know that I felt fear. But was that fear because I felt threatened, or fear just because this is something I've never experienced before? It's hard to really clarify. But I didn't think it was going to hurt me. So I think it's just, I don't know, checking out houses, like, it was just this, it almost was kind of like how Peter Pan was trying to catch its shadow again and like tie it back. That's what the kind of this remembrance of it was. It's like a shadow that got lost, and some Peter Pan's out there just
Maybe it was just like a paranormal open house.
Yeah.
Like, paranormal, like, ghosts were just coming to check out your property to haunt.
Like Monsters Inc. And you just open doors and you like, it's not the room for me. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But I do very clearly remember the shape of it, because it hadn't been, there was no windows for like something to be glaring in.
Yeah.
Everything was black. So there was no reason for you to have it. And we just had the hallway light on. So there was nothing there. Like, it was like a lamp it could have been, or something from outside, or like there was none of that.
Because that's the other angle I always want to tackle, is the skeptic, the inner skeptic, like would say, well, okay, it's early hours of the morning, a child's imagination is
Totally.
crazy. You said you were paralyzed. Was it sleep paralysis? Was it a trick of the light? But you've mentioned very clearly that it was moving. So it wasn't just like a shadow in the distance that you mistook for a figure. And what you've just described there couldn't have been anyone sort of looking through the window in the hallway.
There's no windows. Yeah.
And it's a small hallway, you could see everything.
Yeah. And the way that it did, when it decided to take off, it floated. Like, that was very surprising to me. Still, again, that's is it probably a little bit blurry. Was it still 2D and on the back of the wall, or did it float off?
3D.
Yeah, I'll never know on that. I'm very clear on. I was 8 and it was late, but I had been up all night, so I couldn't sleep, so I was wide awake. It wasn't just blurry, like, oh, what did I see?
Yeah.
I had been staring in the hallway for hours.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to count sheep or think or just like
Yeah.
go to sleep. And then this thing came and yeah, I was curious. It was curious and said, all right, this is boring. And it floated off.
Wow. And have you, because to me that sounds very similar to what people describe as the shadow people. Have you,
No.
Claire, you will have heard of like shadow people, right?
Can we use a phrase?
Oh, yeah, no. I have, but I can't remember much of the details of the shadow people, but I've definitely come across it.
It's just what you've described.
Oh, really?
It's just very
Okay.
common.
Yeah.
It's very, very common in the paranormal world, so to speak. And there seems to be these consistent sightings, like whether it's like a grey alien is your classic sort of sighting with the large beady black eyes, or shadow people, or I don't know, there just seems to be consistencies. This Dogman thing, which both of you, I swear to God, shout out the Dogman Experience podcast. They've got like over 500 episodes
Yeah. Of interviews?
Yeah. And that's where, not to hijack, thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
But like, that's where like, if anyone's listening to this and they're just like a friend of mine and they're not interested in the topic at all, or maybe you just come across it some light entertainment, like the reason I believe in this stuff is I feel like I'm a decent judge of character, and also I'm bored enough to listen to hours upon hours upon hours of these stories. And when you discuss, I think we talked about this, Emily, a few months back, like if you were to go up at a party and start talking about the Dogman, you'd be a fucking, like, I'm that guy, but I've learnt, you don't talk about, okay, aliens, don't talk about aliens, but definitely don't talk about you believe in a Dogman. But this is this 9-foot, like Wolverine, like, what do you call it? Like a vampire type creature. And there's over 500 episodes of just people from all walks of life. And it's kind of like, you can't fake them crying. You can't fake these often quite boring, uneventful stories, or, they could have, if they were faking it, or if they were actors, they could have made it more fantastical. I don't know. And it's like, it's not a very big...
It's hard to deny that when, especially when you have those experiences, like many people having their own individual experiences and them being authentic in their expression of it. It's hard to place that because, I have lots of experiences.
Well, shall we...
Well, just in regards to what you were talking about, like...
Do you guys want to switch play? Did you have anything left, Emma, on that?
No, like I said, I'm pretty concise about it, and
that's
I'm
great.
very open-minded. If well, you're 8, and this, like, you're right. It could have been.
Like, it left an impact.
It
like,
totally
you had an
impacts.
experience. You had an unexplained experience that stayed with you for your whole life. So, whatever happened, that something happened.
Yeah, and I think why it stuck with me, because I am such a practical person. I think you've kind of gathered that for me, where I don't get caught up in things too much. I am very accountable about just how I live and move through the world. So I will second guess something if it makes sense to do. But the fact that the figure was so clear always was the thing that stuck with me around it.
So you're saying you're not someone to easily jump on, like, you're already interested in ghosts and stuff, and oh my God, yeah, you know.
I mean, I do find a fascination about the topic for sure, but it's not that I'm just not quick to judge whether it's truth or false. I just find it interesting because when I think I move through the world of like, I'd be curious to know more. Like, I do really like facts. And because there's nothing, you can't hold any facts of like, you know what I mean? I would totally be like, Open's like, it's probably not true. I'm like, that's your opinion. You're allowed to. You're not offended. But I do, even at 8, remember going, whatever that was highly curious because of the shape of the figure. It was very clearly a person. And there was nobody around, and there was no reflection of something for it to be a shadow. So it was just a shadow on a wall. It was very gently, very kind, curious, and then I got bored. It was a very quick interaction. So
I would be terrified. Like,
I think your brain is more investigative. Like, it's investigating what it's saying or what it's doing.
You're about to say investigative.
I'm merging too much energy. About like trying to like comprehend what it's saying. Like my experiences have been like, it's like my brain is scanning logic, scanning reason, scanning all these ways to categorize what I'm saying, what I'm seeing, or how I'm feeling, or whatever it is, the experience that you're having, that it's trying to reconcile reality, but it doesn't fit in the realm that we know.
Yeah.
And so you're just sitting there being like, this doesn't really make sense. Like, and then when the penny drops is like, it's not of this world. It's like, and then like kind of emotional. But often it's fleeting before that big emotion comes. And it's like after it leaves, you're just like, what the fuck? But the feel, because it's not there, isn't as big. But it's definitely like, my brain, when I'm having experiences, is like a processing of elimination.
It is.
Or experiencing the fear.
But knowing myself, and you guys have both been around me, like, even when I have a big feeling about anything in life, I think I'm quite good at going, okay, I'm having a feeling, and I don't take my feelings as facts. And so I can sit with for some uncomfortable, question it myself, challenge it. So there wasn't like, this is the truth and this is the answer. And would have preferred a practical answer because that's how my brain works. It's like, I like practicality and explanations.
And that's why it stood out.
Yeah, that's why it stood out. It's just like, nothing really makes sense of it. I'll never know, you know, but it was curious.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and not to label it or categorize, because that's a personal experience, and only you, you know, can label it if you want or not. But it does sound to me incredibly similar to what others have described as,
Shadow
you know,
people.
it's just a generic name, the shadow people.
Yeah.
And it's just exactly what you've described. So whatever it is, there's a number of, I guess, millions of people out there that have experienced the same thing. You might be interested in
I would
just
be
looking
curious.
it up.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Someone can identify.
With that being said, I've never seen a shadow person, so I'm still a little bit skeptic.
As you should be, as everyone
I think,
should be.
you know, you strike me as someone who would, like, make shit up as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I think we should end this here. No,
Okay.
no, thank you. No, that's really, really interesting. I've actually never spoken to. I've heard ghost stories and I've heard UFO stories and stuff in person, but this is the first time I've heard someone I know share a quote unquote shadow person story. So that's really fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Claire, sounds like you're itching.
And like a bloated gut. I have so many stories.
Well, can you come and sit here quickly,
Can I go to the
please?
bathroom first?
Yes. Shall we pause it?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Or do you want to you don't want to take this recorder into the bathroom with you? That's okay. All right, we'll pause it.